Yesterday, I introduced this heap of a build to the channel in an extremely uncharacteristically condensed format for something that took over 4 days to accomplish. I started it on Friday. I finished it probably an hour before hitting upload yesterday. And it took 4 days because of the thing that I purposely failed to acknowledge because I thought it would be funny, stripping the paint. It was also something that I knew better but naively thought I could get done in like 2 hours and have the video. See, I know better than that, but you used to be able to go to your local hardware store and buy paint stripper that contained a chemical called methylene chloride. And paint stripper containing methylene chloride was extremely effective at 2 things: stripping paint and killing the people who were using it in non-well ventilated areas. I can't remember what year it was that the EPA was like, hey, all these people keep dying using this paint stripper, like trying to do little projects. Maybe we should stop letting people buy this. But there was a day that it was really easy to strip paint. And then the next, it was really easy to spend $30, $40 on a thing that does nothing when you put it on the frame. I would also like to add that I'm extremely lucky as a 32-year-old who's into motorcycles, cars, and bicycles that I didn't become a statistic with the amount of paint stripper I've been around. So that said, the only real way to get paint off of a frame is manually, with stubbornness, a heat gun, and a scraper of sorts. Basically held the heat gun against the paint for a while, softened it up, and then just kind of ran the scraper across and scraped all the paint off all the bigger tubes. The scraper did make a bit of a mess of the tubes, I must admit, so I sanded it a little bit. And then in all the weld areas or the tighter areas that it was just not viable to really try and get a scraper into, I went and got the lightest crimped wire brush that I could get that was for stripping paint, put it on my grinder, and just sort of tried to lightly go over everywhere that I could to get as much paint off as possible until I was just so sick of doing it that I deemed it good enough. Yeah. So there's a bunch of spots here, like in here, around the bottom bracket area, that just getting one of these into wasn't viable. I just figured, hey, if I stop thinking about it so much, ride the bike, get it dirty, no one will notice anyway. So I eventually just gave up and said, hey, this is probably good enough for this. What am I going to spend weeks on it? No. And this is where we're at. I really quickly and poorly, for that matter, went over it with some sandpaper and just hit it with this Mother's metal polish just to try and get like everything to look sort of the same. Honestly, I was just at my wit's end with it. I didn't want to do it anymore. And yeah, that's how I got that to look like that. And it's not my best work. But it does look cool from here with this filter on. That's kind of all that matters. I remember like 5-6 days ago on this trail, I was like, you just wait. The snow's gonna be gone in like a couple days. It's for this reason, along with the fact that they're deathly boring, that I'll never get a fat bike. So, as you know, that heap of parts with no paint on it is put together to try and get back into like the long distance cross-country biking type thing. Hence, and this does happen every single time the weather changes, Norton and mine's running season starts as a way to just keep fitness up when riding's just a little more difficult to do. And, well, summertime, he can't really run. He's 11 and a half years old. I also just like using running because it's a little more accessible. I can just literally leave the front door with the dog and be training. It's also really easy on bike parts. It doesn't use a bike. You naturally heat yourself in the cold while doing it. So that's basically like a rebate on your power bill. And 4, I don't know if this is true or not. It's just what I feel, but I think you get more out of a short run than you ever would out of a short ride. So if you're like short on time, if you really want to like burn some energy, I think you get more out of a run than you do a ride. And considering a lot of the riding I like to do has to do with bike handling and bike skill itself, I think it's a good It's like a good trade-off. Get a fair bit of bike handling skills while riding in here, or go out and do some longer e-bike efforts on trails with this thing, you know, to keep the single track skills up high. Mix that in with regular, accessible running with the dog when short on time. Sprinkle in some absolute monster single track days with this thing, along with, you know, riding in enough to make sure that I'm fully acquainted with it. Now, that all sounds good in theory right now, but I'm at the beginning. It's the most exciting first 10%. The next 80% is what, you know, do you actually stick with it? And then the last 10 are the best. The system did work pretty good for Paris to Ancaster, although slightly derailed for about a month because of a bout of COVID. But I have high hopes for the 3 events I want to hit: the Ontario Solstice 24-hour relay race, Minto, and the Elgin 120. And just to clarify, I feel like some people are misunderstanding what mountain bike marathoning is. It truly is like cross-country single track courses that you want a mountain bike for. So the Redwood, the Poseidon X, gravel bikes of those likes, those would be absolutely terrible, terrible choices. Completely underbiked, and it would be such a handicap to even begin considering to start with that. That's impressive, but that's not what I'm trying to do here. So here's where we're at with the calendar. I started training around the 7th and I've got 3 days of 5-kilometer runs in. So 15 kilometers of running in for the month of December. It's typically not the riding, the running, the riding of the ramp, doing all the fun stuff that goes with like getting ready for a race that I have a problem with. It's the fact that I just around like 6 o'clock only want to drink beer, eat hot dogs, eat pizza, have chips. Like that's the hard part. Like I'm going to go in, I'm going to try and eat something healthy like I did all day, but there's like a really good chance that I'm just going to end up ordering a pizza.